forget. Okay, perfect. I'm assuming, I know I heard it's county fair season in Wabash County, which is it's also county fair season here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're missing some people. Does that sound right, Josh? At least that's what Ryan told me when I talked with him yesterday on the phone.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Ryan's actually hauling beans right now, and then yeah, right, he will be going right back to the county fair. So
I'm gonna text Whitney and see what's going on with our.
Someone else just joined in on Matt Pierce.
Oh, hold on. Let me. We will get started in just a second. Still getting folks on and figured out. I think the folks in Universal are struggling to connect right now because normally they're here bright and early.
What's happening in the federal government right now with the people who are incapacitated or dying is why you never stop fighting because you don't know how things will change.
No kidding, Lisa. I would not have had it on my bingo card that Lindsey Graham was gonna, his death would be announced before Mitch McConnell's. That one threw me for a loop.
Yep, you never know.
We had that in Iowa this year. We had two senators pass away in the past one year time or 1 year span, but two session time period.
Right?
There
Right.
they are.
So you don't stop because you don't know what's gonna how the momentum will change, how things will change.
Exactly. There's our crowd. How we doing today, folks?
Hi, Emma. It's Susan.
I know.
We're getting everybody set. We've got candidates here and stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna tell them to Josh and let's get started. Did you want David Sanders to talk first or in the middle or when?
I'm gonna do quick updates and then Jess and then hand it over to candidates. So I don't know if David
Okay,
wants to go first, Matt wants to go first, if there's other candidates there.
okay. I haven't seen Matt, but yes, oh, Matt's online. Okay. Hi, Matt. Um, yes, we have another one here named Brandy, and she's running for District 42. So,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, I'll get them quiet down.
Oh boy, I'd be afraid of Susan telling me to quiet down. All right. We'll go ahead and get started then. Let's see. Well, I guess I should start off with a quick introduction. If we haven't met before, I'm Emma Schmidt with Bold Alliance and the Indiana Action Team. And we're basically just here to help people in rural communities across the country protect their land, their water, and property rights from exploitative corporations. Glad to have you all here with us today. I know most people are in person, but if you're online and you're so inclined, you're welcome to introduce yourself in the chat, share who you are, where you're from, anything else you feel like sharing, secrets, gossip, ghost stories, alien abductions. I'm open to it all. We do actually have three different guest speakers today, so I'm going to rush through a couple quick updates and then turn the mic over. But first up, as far as updates go, we have now seen, I think, four members of the Indiana Natural Resources Commission resign, which is uh, pretty crazy. And they are essentially blaming Governor Braun's administration for restricting citizen input and curtailing the board's role in working with the DNR. One of the resigning members wrote in his resignation letter to Braun, quote, Since the appointment of Alan Morrison as director of DNR, it has become apparent that an agency that thrived on transparency and engaging the public to foster sound public policy has become a cabal in which citizen input has been stifled. So, really not mincing words there. We can talk more about that later, but I did think it was something that we should all be paying attention to. But a few other big updates. I don't know if we have folks from Madison County on today, but if we do, Poet is having an open house in Alexandria on Tuesday the 15th, so this upcoming Tuesday. And I would just highly encourage folks to go to that open house, both to hear what Poet and Vault are saying, but also to make sure that the record is being set straight. We have been through dozens of those open house PR meetings in other states, and actually, our first guest speaker, Jess, is going to talk a bit about how we can basically turn those meetings into an opportunity to grow opposition rather than an opportunity for Poet and Vault to get easement signed. But before we get there, two last quick things. I did want to thank everyone who has been reaching out to candidates and filling out the response form. I know we talked about this, last month, the month before, and you probably received an email about it this week, but I am just going to share my screen really quick for a quick recap of what we're talking about. So we have been asking everybody to basically send a quick email. We have a sample message to all of the candidates that are running for office. This does not include incumbents because for the most part, we kind of know where most incumbents stand because they have a voting record we can look at. But all of these new folks that could potentially be in office, we're not so sure about. So we're asking folks to reach out to them. We have their emails here, but of course that doesn't mean you have to just reach out to them via email. If you run into them at, the county fair and you get a response, let us know. And you can do that by clicking on the response form and just entering some basic details. So far, we've gotten a handful of responses, 7, which isn't bad, but there's, I think 130 some candidates on that list. And what we're seeing so far from, just these limited results is that we still have a lot of education to do and a lot of kind of pressuring people to really take a stance. There's a lot of folks that seem to be kind of wishy-washy and just maybe saying what we want to hear, but not fully understanding the, totality of the situation. So a lot of work that still needs to be done, but I don't think that comes as a surprise to any of us. So hopefully we can continue reaching out to folks. Obviously, the election isn't until November, but we would ideally like to have our candidates have a stance on the record before then. And I will also say that if you have any problems with that form, you can always just email or text me responses and I can enter them on the back end. If you don't have my email, it is just emma@boldalliance.org. And my phone number is 712-830-3748. And trust me, I swear every time someone from Indiana calls me, they always start the call with, Emma, I hope I'm not bothering you. You're not bothering me, ever. I take that back, unless it's before 8 a.m., in which case you are bothering me and I will call you back because I'm sleeping. But other than that, I really appreciate when you do reach out, especially with any questions and things like that. And then finally, last update for me before I turn it over. I'm sure most of you have heard by now, but I am excited to officially announce that Attorney Derek Broughton has signed the contract with the steering committee members to bring litigation forward to protect your property rights from carbon capture and storage projects. Of course, in order to do so, we still have some fundraising to do first. And I did create a flyer to help with that fundraising. It still has to go to our design team to jazz it all up, but I figured I would at least share the draft version with y'all just in case you're kind of wondering, how do I talk about this to my neighbor or whatever? So basically, we have kind of 2 versions here. We have a longer version that basically just explains the Indiana Action Team is working with Hoosiers to provide legal representation to landowners. We're challenging this multi-billion-dollar industry and the bad laws that assist them. And we're, trying to raise the legal funds to make that happen. We have a QR code so people can just scan it with their phone. It'll take them right to a donate link. And then we also have kind of an FAQ. So, what are you raising funds for? We're raising funds to cover legal fees associated with protecting property rights from CCS schemes across the state. Who is the attorney? I'm not going to recap it all because I'm assuming most of y'all know how amazing Attorney Derek Broughton is. How do I get involved and how can I donate and where does the money go? We make sure to mention that the donations are tax deductible, that the money's only going for legal representation and it's not, being used to send us all off onto a lovely, Jamaican vacation, that sort of thing. And then we also have a short version that is just short, sweet, very basic. Here's how you donate because we know not everybody loves to read. And I can't blame them. So this is not like the final version, but I can share this out. You're welcome to use it. And then I assume probably sometime within the next week or so, our design team will get a hold of it and make it actually pretty and that sort of thing. But it is available. And yeah, if you have any questions about how we should be phrasing things, any messaging, like just don't hesitate to reach out. I will gladly help with that. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then I think hand it over to Jess. So Jess Mazur is our first speaker. She is an experienced organizer from Iowa that has helped build just a mass opposition to the Summit Carbon Project here, as well as she's helped stop carbon pipelines proposed by both Wolf and Navigator. So Jess is an old hand at this stuff, essentially is what I'm saying. And by that, I mostly mean that she's old. Rumor has it she's been organizing in Iowa since the Oregon Trail came through, but I can't confirm or deny that since I'm young and spry. But with that note, I will pass it off to Jess to tell us how she has managed over the past 5 years to build a strong relationship among landowners, legislators, and decision makers to keep these risky carbon schemes out of Iowa and out of the Midwest. Jess, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. And what an introduction. You always have the best introductions. And then before I start too, I want to say hi to Susan. It's good to see you and nice to meet everyone there in Indiana. It is really awesome that you all meet together. Like, I wish we could do that here in Iowa. We're spread out a lot farther, so we have to do most of our meetings at Zoom. But we have kind of figured out how to be a presence at the Capitol. And so that's what I kind of want to hope to talk to you all about today of, how we've managed to keep people going up and lobbying for 5 going on 6 sessions now. And we still have a large group of people. We've got, kind of a flow of how we do things, and we figured out how to get, the people who live near Des Moines kind of as like a need you there last minute, can you get there team, and then being able to plan weekly days for people who are farther away, or one really big lobby day every month that we kind of really advertise. So we kind of figured out how do we get a constant presence at the Capitol so they can't ignore us. Because if we're not up there, they're going to ignore us and they're not going to pass any bills. And, it just is going to be a moot issue. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of tell you some stories, show you some pictures, and hopefully inspire you with some ideas of what you guys can do in Indiana. So this is all about landowner lobbying and our citizen lobby team that we've built over the last 5 years. So just real quick, basic info about Iowa, because it just might be a little helpful as we go forward, is we have a session every single year from January through May. So we do stuff outside of the session, but most of it happens between January and May. We have a Republican governor. We have a Republican Senate. The breakdown is 33-17 for the Senate. And the House, we have a Republican House, 67 Republicans, 33 Democrats. And when we take a look at of all those people that are elected, how many of them are on our side is we got some work to do. Our governor is opposed to our legislation. Our governor is also retiring. So elections are big in Iowa right now for who's going to be the next governor. But for the last 5 years, we've been working with a governor that does not want to protect property rights. A House, we have a good House. The House has been the strongest chamber for us all 5 years. First one to pass a bill. We've had really strong majorities on some bills in the House with 90-10 votes. The most recent vote on our bill that we're pushing for right now, we passed that out of the House with 64 votes. So we have a pretty strong control over the House. We've got them on our side, but then we also have a really bad Senate in Iowa. And we do believe that if we could get the bill brought up for a vote, that it would pass. We think we have a majority. However, the Senate Majority Leader, his name's Mike Klesch, he's refusing to even give the bill a chance. So we have that kind of a problem with the Senate where we have gotten some bills through the Senate, but as of right now, the piece of legislation that we're working on, they're adamant about holding it up. So we've had to get really creative. The bill that we are pushing for right now is very simple, straightforward. It's one sentence, And all it does is says carbon pipelines cannot use eminent domain. Short and sweet, simple. We've tried lots of other things, but we've finally gotten enough power to where we can push all that, the bills that are okay, we can push them off to the side and focus on the legislation that we want. So that's where we're sitting. We have a House that will pass it, a lot of senators that would pass it, but Senate leadership that won't, and a governor that's going to be out of there next session. But so far, they've not supported us. So for the first 2 years of the legislative session, most people had never been to the Capitol before. It was a whole new thing. And so it was really just kind of making ourselves known. Like there's tons of people up there whose job it is to be there the whole time. They wear nice fancy suits, but we're just everyday people. So we had to like make it known that we're there. And so we decided to wear red. That was kind of when wearing red started, and just getting ourselves known, being there every single week. Anytime there was a committee meeting or anything that was relevant to us, being there, showing up. And we always would sit at the same table, and we brought treats every single week. And we just, it was known if you went to the Capitol on a Tuesday, you could get dessert from all the landowners. Like we just became a constant presence at the Capitol, to where if you saw someone in the Capitol wearing red, you knew why they were there. And so it was really important for us to just be there all the time. And then we had a lot of people that just needed to learn the process. Lobbying is scary to some people if you've never done it, but once you get the hang of it, it is super easy. It's literally having a conversation with somebody else that lives in your state. They just happen to run for office and win. But we're learning what's the process of how do you lobby, getting brave enough to just go talk to a legislator when you see them walk by, and actually recognizing who's who so you know who's walking by. And then in Iowa, we have a process in order to send a message to legislators, you have to fill out all these slips. So just learning the process of filling out slips, and then, just calling out legislators. We can't walk into the room where the legislators are at in Iowa. You have to send in a note, and then they can come out and talk to you. And so we would do that. And it helped us kind of figure out legislators that were willing to talk to us might be on our side. So it's just getting to know them, and who always said hi to us, who came to our table to get a snack every week. Those is how we started to get to know legislators and become friends with them. Getting comfortable with lobbying, that's just once you do it 2 or 3 times, it is so easy. You just got to get over that first hump. It's just talking to your neighbors. And then we also, at that point, at the beginning of this, we didn't really have much power at that point. We were still just kind of getting our feet wet up at the Capitol. So we were asking legislators for a bill rather than saying, here's the bill I want. I have it typed up and I want you to introduce this bill. So we ended up kind of with some bills that, like, I would say, aren't that great the first few years, just because they were writing the legislation. They were in control of what bills moved. They decided when the bills moved. And we were just like, please, please, please help us. And so that's something we kind of figured, like, after a while, it's like, God, we need more power, because if this bill passes, sure, it helps us, but it doesn't solve the problem. So we got better at it when in year 2 and 3. Just to point out some pictures on here, this is our table that we sit at every single time we're up there. The first 2 years, we picked the same day. We just always went on Tuesdays. And then this year, we tried a little bit differently, where we switched it up. Like, we planned ahead a bit more, because some people can't come on Tuesdays, but they can come on Wednesdays. And so we switched it up a little bit, but we were always there in the cafeteria at our table. And then this is landowner Julie Glade turning in a slip to call out a senator. So everyone had to learn that process of filling out a slip and talking to a senator. And this is talking to senators outside of the Senate chamber. And you'll notice a lot of the pictures red. Little did we know at the beginning how important a simple thing like showing unity. You're powerful when 20 people walk in wearing red, because then it's like, oh crap, those people know what they're doing.
I want to just jump in and add too, just the fact that, this is over years, right? Like, you don't just, we saw bills introduced in Indiana this year that didn't pass. And it's like, that is normal. That's what we expect. Like, it should not, if it takes just a year or one session, that is impressive and, something beyond my wildest dreams. But you keep building that power and getting better at it year by year. And eventually you win.
Yep. Our first year, we didn't get a bill to even hold a committee meeting. There wasn't even, our bills were introduced, and that was as far as it went. Year 2, we had some bills that we didn't write, but we were, kind of supportive of. And I think we got a couple committee meetings on them, but that's it. It didn't go anywhere. Year 3 was when we first started to see bills get passed out of the House, but we couldn't get anything through the Senate. Year 4, we got that was our biggest year. We had a big bill pass out of the House, the Senate, but then vetoed by the governor. Year 5, we have our bill, we haven't gotten it passed, and we're still working on it. So like it's not an overnight thing. Year 3 and 4. At that point, we had really developed a lot more relationships with legislators. We knew who our allies were. We knew who was, showing up to our meetings, or if we sent in a slip and they ignored us, we kind of knew, well, if you're never talking to us, you're probably not on our side. We also realized that we can't just show up January through May and hope that they're going to do it. Lobbyists that are like professional paid lobbyists, they're meeting with legislators right now saying, hey, I want this bill passed. Here's the language. And they're meeting with them periodically leading up to January. So we started to do that. We started setting up what we call off-season meetings. So it's not during the legislative session. And we've done that for a few years now. And it's incredibly powerful. It helped us a lot. They were first just kind of one-on-one Zoom meetings. Maybe someone would go set up coffee with them. We ended up having a strategy session one of the years where we were able to get lawyers and supervisors and legislators all together in a room to plan out our strategy. And that was when we finally started to get control of what the bill said. So like if you need the bill you want, you got to get to know the people because they have to do the work for you. And they're either going to fight for their bill or your bill. So that's where we kind of realized we needed more power and control up at the Capitol. And this picture here is one of the legislator meetings that we held on Zoom ahead of the session. We all wore red. We made sure everyone had their red shirt on and had their camera on. So those legislators knew, like, you're not just talking to a few of us, you're talking to this whole group of people, and this is what we want you to do next session. We got our legislation introduced, but I was talking about how we had some bills that we just didn't care for because they weren't bills that we wrote. Year 3 and 4, we also started to face a lot more opposition because it was so clear that we were gaining power and we're gaining traction and our bills were getting farther each session. Then all of a sudden we saw the corn growers show up all in blue and they copied our red idea. And so we had the pipeline people and the corn growers showing up against us at the Capitol in blue. They only showed up every once in a while. We were definitely there more than them. And then we also saw a lot of things where they knew that, like Senate Majority Leader Klamesh, the guy who's holding up our bill, he wanted to make it hard on us. So if he did schedule meetings, he'd give us less than 24 hours notice, and it would be at 8 a.m. and it would be in the smallest room in the Capitol. It's like it just starts to get harder because you feel fight back. And at one point, Summit, that's the pipeline company we're fighting, they weren't a union company. They weren't hiring union labor. And so they all of a sudden switched. I think it was year 3. They switched to hire union labor. And then all of a sudden we started to lose Democrats because they're, union supporters. And so you started to see more of this. They were working hard to defeat our legislation because they knew we were going to get it passed. So we started to see a lot more opposition those years, and we had to get more creative and stand out. And then we also realized we can't just ask nicely. Sometimes we had to start like putting legit pressure on these people, threatening to vote them out, exposing the bad ones. Like we had to ramp it up. Year 3 and 4, that was our big moment, the big bill that we finally got enough power to get a bill through the House. They tried to stop it in the Senate, and they all these little maneuvers to change the bill ended up failing, and it ended up passing the Senate and getting to the governor's office where it was vetoed, which then at that point it created just this huge outcry. The leading party in Iowa, which is Republican Party, who campaigns on property rights, vetoed a property rights bill. And that really started to change the alliances up at the Capitol in a way that really benefited us. Like, I think some Republicans were very upset with their own party to where they were now on our side, whereas before they were quiet about it. So it really helped us in that moment, even though we didn't get what we wanted. And also that bill that passed and went that far wasn't a bill we really wanted in the end. After that, we finally learned we have to have our language. So year 5, which is this last year, we finally got our bill. And we had all of our pre-meetings. We did all of the work. We got the legislators convinced that it's this bill and this bill only, and we had a lot more power. When it came to the House, it was, well, when do you want to have this meeting? Let's give you advance notice so you can get as many landowners as you can up to the Capitol. And we had the bill that we wanted out of the House by week 2 of the session. We were at that point having regular meetings with the Speaker of the House, which actually is a picture on the last screen. We were in his office, I'd say every week, every other week in year 5, because, and he, at that point, we become such good friends with the House Majority Leader. He was more willing to stick his neck out for us. And so he was thinking about holding up a bill that the Senate wanted to make sure we could get our bill passed. So we really, that was a strong relationship to have and to still have. We were part of the decision-making process. There were multiple other lobbyists and senators that were against us that were trying to make amendments to our bill. And we had convinced enough allies to say, no, we ain't changing a single word in this bill. And so we got to be part of that. They bring amendments to us and say, well, do you like this amendment? We'd say, no, we do not like this amendment. Don't pass it. So it was really important to get to that point. And then by year 5, we had all these voting records. We had all of our personal experience talking to these legislators, that we had a really strong list of who's with us and who's against us. And that makes it, for us right now in year 5, it's clearly an election issue. We are in an election year. Half of our Senate's up for reelection, all of the houses, and we can now say clearly, don't vote for this person. They have voted against property rights bill for 4 years in a row. And it's helping us identify candidates better, where we can, if we have a bad legislator, we're talking with candidates to say, well, do you care about this issue? What would you do if you're elected? And it's really helping us start to weed out the people that, aren't helping us up at the Capitol. And one thing we're recognizing is that we need a lot more public support. So one thing, like if we could do it over again, from the beginning, we'd do a lot more meetings outside of the Capitol as we do in the Capitol. Like I wouldn't stop going to the Capitol, but you need to bring the public along with you. And especially in districts that aren't impacted, like there's a couple areas of the state that don't have a pipeline, and we struggle so hard to get those legislators on our side. And if we had held more meetings down there and gotten more people activated, maybe we could have gotten a bit more pressure put on those specific senators. But we held rallies outside. We held rallies inside. This is one of the meetings that they held where you notice all the lobbyists, they're used to being there. They know how it works. They get to the meeting early. They usually have their same seat that they always sit in. And we weren't going to let them control us anymore and wipe out our voices. So we'd get to every meeting early, and we sat in the front row wearing our red. And the lobbyists had to do standing room only, not us. So like just being a force in there, like it's our building, it's our capital. We're the citizens of Iowa. It's not their building. So then this is just pictures and like tips that I would say are the things you can do that are the best to do is just be a presence. And I know for you all, you're not all right close to the Capitol. But what we've done is we've got enough people in the Des Moines area or within an hour that come every single week. And some of them are on like a list where we can call, like they scheduled a meeting for tomorrow. Can you come to the Capitol? And they're close enough. And then we try to give enough advance notice to the people who are farther away of which day we're going so that they can plan ahead. We've done things like, okay, this is going to be Hardin County Day. Everyone in Hardin County come to the Capitol so that we can really, push a bigger day with a specific reason. So lots of different things. We always wore red. This is our table. We had dominoes. Like if you let this pipeline through, all of our rights are going to fall like dominoes.
That's the best picture of me of this entire fight, by the way.
That's Emma's elbow right up here in the right-hand corner. That's all you can see of her. This is the rotunda. We like to fill it up with red shirts. Our table again. What do we got next? And then being creative. After the first couple of years, it gets really dull. You think you're doing the same thing every single day. So we said, well, how do we? And then the legislators keep saying, like, you're telling me the same thing every week. So we had to think of how to get creative. So on Valentine's Day, our lobby sheet said roses are red, violets are blue. Protecting property rights is up to you. This was our lobby slipper. We would tape little trinkets to them that say, like, don't play roulette with our farms. All the dominoes that had words like the American dream, antitrust, property rights, things that would fall if pipelines built. We're now known as the ladies who like to make food at the Capitol. And so that gets you conversations with anyone because they want a cupcake. I'm telling you, they want a cupcake. And so we would deliver cupcakes up, and that was our chance to go talk to people, bring treats. This was in front of a committee meeting. Cindy and Sherry, their sisters, Neona Century Farm. This is how they stood at the front doors of the meeting when all the legislators walked in, greeting them sternly, kind of like, you better vote yes. And then, this is our governor, Governor Reynolds. She's retiring. She happened to be doing a press conference at the Capitol the same day we were there. And I just decided in the moment, grab a sign and go stand behind her. And so in the news, the whole next day was Reynolds and then me standing there saying no trespassing, property rights. Like, take advantage of those moments, because when you're at the Capitol, they just happen. The legislators, the people you've been waiting to talk to, are just going to walk by you. And you can either take the opportunity or let it pass by. And Emma said you've already seen these, but lots of other examples of the slips that we would send in. We made cakes. One of the legislators kept saying, well, I don't like sweets. I only like vegetables. And so we next week showed up saying, for those of you who gave up sweets for Lent, we listened. Please listen to us. And then we brought them vegetables the next week to try to, Emma created a Monopoly game called Monopolize. So we invited legislators to come down and play it. You could roll the dice and you might get your farm taken away or you might not. So it was just kind of a little fun thing to switch it up. And then lastly, this one was at the very beginning. We did a die-in. We wanted to show the legislators how dangerous these things are. And so we did a mock. Here's what happens if a carbon pipeline were to rupture. And everyone was watching us. It created a huge spectacle. We made this photo wall where we asked all of the landowners to send us a picture of your land or your family or whatever's impacted by this pipeline. And we're going to display it at the Capitol. So each one of those pictures is a picture of someone's farm or their grandparents who were the first ones on the farm, something that was impacted. If you run into any of your elected officials at the fair, this is at the Iowa State Fair, I pretended to be a supporter of Governor Reynolds. And then once I got up to talk to her, I told her to quit stealing people's farms. And she was not happy, and I got swiftly whisked away. This is what we did too, to put pressure on the senators who were not telling us where they stood, or they don't want to be known as anti-property rights. We decided to make our own board. Here's the people we think are undecided. Here are people in favor of our bill, and here are the ones that were opposed. That made them so mad that we put their pictures in a category that the next week we were told we can't have displays anymore unless they're laying flat on a table. So it's working when they are going after your sign sitting upright or laying flat on the ground. This one, sometimes when the Senate wasn't paying attention to us and they're just ignoring us and not passing our bill, we would just go there and sit in the gallery and stare at them. And we would stare at them for hours, making them uncomfortable and kind of saying, we're going to be here till you pass our bill. So that's an idea of things we came up with. Get to know your legislators. Can't say it enough. Once you become friends with them, they work for you. Otherwise, you're asking and begging them to do something. This is a senator, the very first senator who introduced a bill for us. And then we tried to make it worthwhile to them. We'd invite them to be speakers at our meetings. And, they love that. They're politicians. They want to be in front of a crowd. And so they love that we're going to go invite them to a meeting with a bunch of rural Iowans. So it kind of works back and forth. Food, again, works to talk to legislators. This is two legislators, and all of these folks are from Hardin County, and I think those are the Hardin County legislators. So they came up as a group to talk to their own legislators. We held a reception. A lot of really fancy lobby groups hold these big fancy dinners where they wine and dine legislators. So we decided, well, let's try to do that at a lower cost budget wise, but we're going to try to do what the lobby groups do. So we held a property rights and local control reception. It was awesome. We had probably 100 people there. Legislators from both parties and both chambers showed up, candidates, and we just had them mingle and sit at different tables with landowners so they could be talking and getting to know each other. It was great. And then just more pictures of meetings, lots of meetings. Take every meeting you can and ask for every meeting you want. And I forgot to remove that picture, but this is our board after we were required to lay it flat. We couldn't set it up anymore, but we could lay it flat. Rank your legislators, keep track of how they're voting. We keep a spreadsheet, and so on each bill, we know who's voting with us and against us. And that way we can then later on say, we think we have 27 votes out of 50 that we need, if you can keep track. So that was really helpful. And then we can easily say, here's our list of bad people, here's our list of good people. Almost done here. Constantly request meetings. We asked for a meeting with the governor for 5 years straight, and she wouldn't meet with us. So we would take pictures like this outside of her office. We would send out press releases saying she's refusing to meet with us. And then we finally got a meeting with the governor here. Wasn't very good, but we got it. So any type of meeting, weekly meetings all the time. And then communicate with the public and the media. I kind of circled that throughout. We did hold meetings out of the Capitol back in people's communities. They were always awesome and well attended. We should have done more of them. We held press conferences outside of Governor Reynolds' office to call out her for not meeting with us and for vetoing the bill. We always had tons of media show up. If your Capitol's like our Capitol, they have a press room. And if you can find it, anytime we wanted to go talk to the press, we just go to the press room and knock on the door and say, hey, you want to come talk to some landowners? And we'd get a story out of it. Last couple things. Be ready to face opposition. This was the group of corn growers and union labor that started to show up wearing blue. This is them. They're wearing blue. And by the way, when I say corn growers, I don't mean the actual farmers who grow corn. I mean the people in suits that work at the Iowa Corn Growers Association. Those are the people I mean. This is that tiny room that they gave us with less than 24 hours notice at 8 a.m. And we still had people get there, and we tried to take as much of the room as possible. This meeting here was going to be a big committee meeting, so we all got there so early that we didn't leave a single seat for the lobbyists. Same with this one. We sat in the front row to make sure the lobbyists weren't front and center, but we were. And then we're not done. We haven't passed our bill. We've done a lot of really good stuff. But what we've realized is we can't just give up because we haven't gotten our bill. We have to vote them out. And so the more work you do at the Capitol, the more work you can do in the elections to just build the legislature you want. Build the legislature of people who are going to protect your rights. So we've been doing that. And we even got some headlines. We held a big press conference about how we're going to vote out all the bad legislators. And we got the exact headline we wanted. Iowa landowners threaten to vote out lawmakers over eminent domain dispute. And then last thing is not legislative session, but Emma told me that you all have a pipeline, or I guess it would be like sequestration info meetings coming up that the company is hosting. We had those too, and we turned them into a huge opportunity because if in their perfect world, they get to talk, they present the information, no one asks questions, they get to tell the whole story. And we said, well, that's not how we're going to let this happen. So we, at every single one of those meetings, had people stand outside wearing red with signs, with petitions, with information to hand out. So that way, everyone that went into that meeting, if they didn't know anything about it, they knew there was a group of people opposed to it and they had some info about it. And we got their contact info, which was the best thing we could have done. Petitions, and then getting their email address or their phone number or however you stay in contact with people. That's how we built our list of opposition from the get-go, is everyone we met, we asked for their contact info so that we could then meet with them again and again and again.
We also prepared a list of questions that you could ask the company. That was major, I think.
Yep, we made a good point. Take over the Q&A. If they have a Q&A, take it over with people, planted questions. Some of the meetings were empty. You can kind of tell there's hardly anyone there, but you see the red shirts. A lot of people did this. Instead of asking a question to the company, they just turned around and used the Q&A to talk to the audience and say, hey, everyone out here, I want to tell you this. Don't support this. One time I was at one of them and I turned around to the audience and I just said, if you're opposed, will you please stand up? The entire room stood up and it was so powerful. So like if you know your room is packed with opposition, ask them to stand up and then it's just really powerful. But some of them were busy and packed, but you can still see the red shirts and we made sure they all got in line. This is also how people learned to wear red shirts, is they kind of realize, oh, I guess I was supposed to wear a red shirt. So they're different. Sometimes they don't just do a presentation in the front of the room. They'll set up stations and you walk around to the stations. That makes it a little bit harder to organize, but just like stick together in a group when you're going around to the stations. Don't let them pull anyone off by themselves. That's when they're vulnerable. But you just kind of have to be nimble and just like this, that's your state, it's your land. They have no right to come in and take it from you. And so sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable, but you just have to own it. Like I'm going to fight this and I'm going to do what I need to do to get the bill passed, the pipeline stopped, or whatever it is. You have to do it. That's what democracy is about. It's not a spectator sport. It is one we have to get involved in. So that's all I got. And Emma, I'm sorry I went way over my time.
You're fine. You're fine. Any questions for Jess? Oh, you nailed it, Jess. They don't even have questions for you. I thought it was a really good. Oh, Susan, was your hand up?
I just have one question. I know your bill is no eminent domain for CO2 pipeline, right? And I know that's what your major fight was, because that's how it all started. Is it too broad to say no eminent domain for private companies? I mean, is that too broad of an area? Are there private companies that you feel deserve eminent domain, or what's your thoughts?
That's a really good point. So we actually had one of our original bills protected property rights in a broader way by changing this definition of common carrier. But then one of the problems we faced was the minute we started to add in other things into our bill, then all of a sudden Mid-American Energy Company started to weigh in on the bill. And then we decided, well, let's focus on local control. And then all of a sudden you have every other lobby group in the world. So what we learned was, even though it probably should have a broad bill that's more encompassing of property rights, I don't think we could get that passed right now. But I think if we narrowed it down to this specific thing with nothing else included, it keeps all the cooks out of the kitchen and it's focused on one issue. So we had to go back and forth on that decision. And I think in the perfect world, most of us would say, yes, we'd want a stronger property rights bill. But realistically, if all the powerful lobby groups care about your bill, you're screwed. So we had to keep it really narrow.
Yeah, I think you're right. Narrow, and then you could always go broader, once you get one passed. So yeah. But
And
good job. Good job on your ideas and going over, because I know most of our group here, I don't know if anybody's really been at the State House. Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, I have never been.
Just in general.
It's to go over there and protest or lobby or.
Oh, but yeah, I've been there a bunch of times.
Yeah. I haven't. I mean, this is totally out of my wheelhouse, right? I mean, all this, we've
you did it in DC though.
Well, that was because I felt the pressure and everybody's like, you can do it. I did do it. I'm a lot less nervous, but it's still, it's hard. But like you said, you just got to do it, right? We've been I'd never watched it even on live stream on the committee hearings and stuff. And I have been watching, because even though Matt Pierce doesn't know me, I know him because I've been following him. I thank you for sticking up for us. We appreciate it. Anyway, good job in Iowa.
Yep. Anytime you have questions, just holler. We can give you some tips on what's worked and what hasn't worked. And I have one other really important thing I know that we just left out. Legislators in Iowa, probably in Indiana too, on the weekends hold meetings at home. So like they're at the Capitol Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays or something, they'll hold like a coffee in their home district. We need to take more advantage of those. That's another thing I would improve on, is take advantage of those ones at home, because it's easier for people to get to the ones that aren't far away.
Absolutely. Yep. I think y'all call them cracker barrels, which I'll never understand, but you do you. Amazing.
Can y'all hear me at all?
Yeah.
I was just going to tell her that I was really impressed with some of your tactics there, as far as like filling up the room before people got there, because we started doing that in our courtrooms here in Wabash County. I said, hey, this is our courthouse. We pay for it. These scumbags that want to take our land, they don't need to have to sit. They need to have to stand and make their presence known. So the last two times that I sort of put that out there for the community, they not only filled the courtroom, heck, the last time we all wore red, white, and blue. It was like on July 3rd when we held our last planning commission meeting, where they referred or voted to move the ordinance up to our commissioners. And that courtroom was red, white, and blue. Even the people that make the laws were wearing red, white, and blue. And I got to watch the CEO, or not the CEO, but the general manager of our community-minded, neighborly Poet ethanol plant, walk in there, and he had to stand behind my son in whose wheelchair, whose house he's threatening to screw up with his stupid plan. And we got to watch that man have to stand right behind my son and stare at him. And the whole crowd knew he was there. He was the last one in. He was the first one out. Um, and then when I spoke at another one before that, and I made sure to point out, this guy's here. He's right over there. That's him. He's here, and here's what he's done. So yeah, we've taken over those things too, and I think it's an awesome thing. And I could be neighbors with a fellow like her because you think a lot like I do, and I just think that's cool to hear somebody else come up with those plans, like staring at people in a room and just approaching them out of the blue, calling them out. I love it. You're a great asset to this. That's awesome.
I think that's too, like, one of the main things to remember is that, like, it can be uncomfortable. Like, I dropped out of college speech class 3 times before I managed to make it through because I do not like public speaking. And yet here I am leading a meeting today in front of all of you. So, like, it has not been an easy process. Like, you do have to, like, get through some of that anxiety and uncomfortableness, but once you do, you start making a major difference. All right. Any other questions for Jess? Otherwise, I know we have, what, 3 other speakers to get through, so we might go a little bit long.
Sorry.
No, you're good, Jess. Because I think you kind of put a perfect laid it out great for our next speakers who are member of the legislature and some candidates. So hopefully we didn't scare them off, but maybe that's why I will turn it over to Representative Matt Pierce first, because y'all can hold the ones in the room hostage. We can't hold him hostage since he's on Zoom. So we would love to hear from you and just kind of tell us what's happening up at the legislature and everything that's going on.
Yeah, first of all, can you hear me okay? Is my audio
Yeah.
okay? Okay, awesome. So I just heard about the meeting through some other people who've been out there campaigning. I represent District 61, which is all inside the city of Bloomington. And, lucky for me, I do not have a fall opponent, so I can already begin thinking about the upcoming session, whereas other people have important races to run. And so I just wanted to see if there are any questions about some of the things that Jess talked about. I thought that, all of her kind of tactics and just really having to be relentless in Iowa, it's really the same thing in Indiana. I mean, the processes are a little different. Every legislature has its own kind of quirks and personality, but I think that it pretty much works the same way in the end, the bottom line. And so I think her advice was really great. And I would just say to you that, when you walk into the State House, it's a big building, it's a glorious building, and it's easy to get intimidated, like I'm coming onto somebody else's turf. But it's really important to remember that, that is your house. That is, democracy, and all the people in there work for you. And so you kind of have to have that attitude of, I'm coming in here to talk to my employees about what I want. Now, the thing to remember is that, each of us are elected to represent the interests and the wishes of our own constituents. And Indiana is a big place. Different parts of the state have different priorities and agenda. And so the key thing is legislators want to hear from their own constituents. And so what that means is you have to figure out a way to do that grassroots work to build across the state. So if you have an opportunity to kind of get in alignment with other statewide organizations that lobby at the State House that have statewide members that you can kind of get dovetailed into their agenda, that can be helpful too. Because the thing that's really going to move people, legislators, is hearing from their own constituents. And the other thing is, oftentimes when we get into session, it's almost too late by then because things are really hectic. There are a lot of people want to meet with us, and it's difficult to give too much attention to any one group because you just have so many people coming at you all the time. And so the perfect time to be talking to your legislators, candidates who may be your legislator, is like right now and through the fall. And oftentimes in the district, things are calmer. This idea of just asking your legislator to meet for a cup of coffee, just a short meeting to ask for, to educate them on the issue and ask them what they might do on it. And that's the other important thing is at the end of meeting with a legislator, always ask them a very direct question. Will you vote for my bill? Will you support this issue? What do you think about this? Because a lot of times people will meet and discuss and kind of give their pitch, and then they never really ask the legislator, well, what are you going to do on this? And so it's kind of important to ask them what they're actually thinking. That'll give you an idea of kind of where you stand. And I think that the last point I would make is that, all legislators are equal in the sense that at the end of the day, we each have one vote. But the truth is, not all legislators are created equal. So legislators who are in the majority party tend to have access to more power. They can make more things happen. And so who is in the majority matters. And that's because the majority members choose their leadership. And then the leadership has disproportionate power. So if the Speaker of the House or the President pro tem of the Senate want to make something happen or keep something from happening, they usually have the ability, because they appoint the committee chairs and other positions, they have a great deal of influence because they can help people out in other legislation, or they can kind of hurt you on it. So that inherently gives them some power. And so as you're thinking about how to influence the legislature, you need to be thinking about, how do I influence the Speaker of the House? How do I influence the President pro tem of the Senate? And it's the same thing. You need to figure out, how do I network grassroots into those districts of the Speaker, of the pro tem of the Senate, so that they can be hearing from their own constituents that, hey, I have a concern about this issue. Because you need to make it kind of a local concern, a local issue to them, not just something that some people are complaining about in some far off corner of the state. And so that can be really important. And along with that, then, is like the number one first line, most important person, as you may have already figured out, is the committee chair. Because the committee chairs have complete and total, I kind of call it dictatorial power. They decide which bills live and which bills die. And so they are super critically important. Whoever happens to be the chair of the committee that gets a bill that you're interested in, whether you want to stop it or whether you want to advance it, those committee chairs have that ultimate power. And again, the way to influence them is to have them be hearing from their own constituents. It's much easier to say, sorry, I disagree with you, I can't help you, to somebody who's not in your district, because at the end of the day, they can't vote for you one way or the other. But if you begin to hear from a lot of people within your own district saying, hey, I want you to do something about this, then the legislator has to think to themselves, okay, if I am not responsive in some way to my own constituents, they may very well remember that in the upcoming election, and that might be a problem for me, because every legislator wants to have their constituents feel that they're doing a good job representing them. And so it's that hard work of getting a grassroots support all across the state, so you can have people hearing from their own constituents. That's really probably the most difficult thing to do, but I think the most critical thing to really advancing any kind of legislation. And with that, I will just stop and see if there are any questions about anything.
What you just said reminded me of one thing we did in Iowa to get the Speaker of the House on our side. Is he had, his weekend forum, and he was trying to pass out ballot nomination petitions to get him on the ballot, and everybody refused to sign. They wouldn't sign to get him on the ballot, and that scared him. And so then suddenly he was a very strong proponent of our cause. Who do we have at Universal that has a question? And then I'll go to Jess.
It's me. Ms. Price, I appreciate everything you do, and I just wanted to let everybody know, if they haven't seen it, I like the TikTok, the big guns TikTok that's been out with the Democrats. That was like very good, very powerful. But I do understand, yes, it's the committee, the chair, you get a bill put forth, which we've been doing, but they don't want to do anything about it. But my question is kind of outside the state house. Of course, we have all these agencies, right? And the big talk has been the DNR and the NRC. Of course, we went to an NRC meeting last year, tried to explain to the NRC what was going on, that we weren't getting listened to and whatever. They didn't really believe us, but now you can see they're feeling it, right? They've been cut out of the process. What is here's my hope, and I'm not saying we can get this done, but I think Mr. Morrison needs to be removed from DNR. He's had a conflict of interest from the very get-go, and now he's taking over full power. What is your suggestion besides, of course, writing the governor, right, and putting pressure on him? Are there any other things that we could be doing? We need a balanced house is what we needed over there. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? And this session has got to be a shakeup so we can get that. But yeah.
Right. I agree definitely. You know, I'm hoping that the elections will bring more balance to the legislature, so no one party has that just total dominance that allows them to kind of just do what they want. The thing with the Natural Resources Commission is the tremendous opportunity because there are lots of people across lots of issues, hunters, fishermen, anybody who deals with the Department of Natural Resources. They're used to going to the Natural Resources Commission. They're used to that being their forum to be heard. They're used to having those citizens up there making recommendations and being involved in the process and having real influence. And, you know, Governor Braun decided that he didn't like that. And I'm not exactly sure why, but the argument was made that, oh, it's more efficient to just do this regular, more legalistic rulemaking process, which is kind of dovetailed in with the Resources Commission. So their argument was, we don't need the Natural Resources Commission at all because people can file comments or make, you know, through this more formal rule process, kind of legalistic process, they can say things if they want. And there was enough pushback from people and concern that what they did is they left the Natural Resources Commission exist, but they kind of took some power away. They kind of allowed the head of the DNR to be able to just do rulemaking on his own, essentially, and work it through the process. So I think in the upcoming session, particularly these resignations and what they've been saying in their letters, there is an opportunity to get aligned with lots of other people who are used to going to the Natural Resources Commission and having that be their place to be heard. You can probably get some pretty good pressure on the legislature to kind of restore the power of the Natural Resources Commission. Because I've never, you know, we have these battles, these discussions in the state government all the time. It's like efficiency versus public input, right? A lot of times you'll hear like, oh, we have too many meetings or too many hearings, or, you know, we can do it faster this way. We don't need this. We don't need that. But at the end of the day, you know, government can be very efficient and do things very quickly, but then you're cutting people out of the process because it happens so quickly. People don't have a chance to know what's going on, understand what's going on, and then get organized to be able to be heard. And so I think that's another thing that you could, you know, see what other organizations are doing out there and put that on your agenda of like, let's get the Natural Resources Commission back as the place where people can go to be heard.
Well, I thank you for that. I mean, and another thing is, how do we go about, I don't like when they suspend the rules. I don't like that part of government where they couldn't get something passed, then they want to suspend the rules, right? So they can go do their thing. Is that something, and how do we go about changing government so that does not happen? If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. That's the way I feel about it. And I agree. The knee-jerk reaction, people want to hurry up and get something through. But you know, if you decide something later on, you go back to think about it, and you're like, oh, that's not a good idea. So time is not our, you know, enemy. Sometimes it's our friend. So we can really think through a process. And I guarantee you, CCS is one of those processes because half those people that voted yes did not even understand what they were voting for. And then that is, and I'm like, and I told a bunch of legislators, if you don't know what you're even voting on or what it is, vote no and address it later, right? I mean, that's where I'm at with it. But I would like to know, how do we stop the suspension of you know, the rules to stop that crap?
Yeah, so that happens during the conference committee time. So, you know, you have this kind of Schoolhouse Rock way bills become law, and so they get introduced, they come out of committee in the first house. If they can get past the entire body, then they go over to the other house. It might be the Senate, it might be the House of Representatives, and then the process is repeated, gets assigned to the committee. It's It's got to get a hearing in the committee and get voted out of the committee, and then it's got to get through the floor. And of course, it can be amended along the way. And then if you have a bill that gets through the second house, so it's kind of gone through most all of the process, but it has it's been amended in the second house. So let's say a House bill passes and goes over to the Senate, and then the Senate says, no, we want to put these things in or take these things out, and they kind of rewrite the bill some. Now it comes back to the House. The author of the bill has a choice to make. He or she can either say, you know what, I agree with what the Senate did, fine by me, it doesn't bother me, I concur. And they file this motion to ask the House to vote to concur in what the Senate's done. And the Senate does the same thing when the House messes with its bills. And so that's one pathway. And then if the concurrence motion passes, it goes right down to the governor. Now, if the person doesn't like what happened to his bill in the other house, then they can file what's called a dissent motion. And they can say, I dissent to what the other house did, and I want a conference committee to basically have an argument about how the bill should be. I want an opportunity to make the bill read the way I want it to read. And so if the person does that, then you have this conference committee appointed, which has one member from each caucus. So there's a House Democrat, a Senate Democrat, a House Republican, a Senate Republican. And it starts out with these four people, and they meet. And in order for the bill to, or the conference committee report to be considered, all four people have to sign. Now, you would think that that would be a pretty good way to ensure you had a compromise and, kind of a meeting of the minds if you had, Democrats and Republicans in both the House and Senate agreeing. But there's a twist, because the Speaker of the House or the pro tem of the Senate, if they want, they can remove someone who does not want to sign the conference committee report and put another person in who will. So often what happens is by the end of that process, you end up with a conference committee that is completely made up of the majority party because they want to get things passed. And so the minority kind of loses its leverage at that point. Now, the suspension of the rules, where that kind of comes in, is the rules are written in a way where they envision the idea that if you have a conference committee that's changing the bill, because the other thing that can happen is you can have brand new things put in the bill that weren't in there before. You can have like surprises, pop up at the last minute that are very dramatic. So the idea was you want the bill to be around for 24 hours and filed before a certain date to give people time to really understand what's in it. Well, there's a mechanism in which you can get around that. And pretty much every bill goes through it because the rules have been changed in a way that they make almost every bill now go to the Rules Committee, which I serve on, and it has to get a vote to suspend the rules. So essentially what they're saying is like, okay, we know this was filed after the deadline and it hasn't been sitting around on people's desks as long as we thought, but we're running out of time here and we just want to go ahead and move it. And it's the job of the Rules Committee to read those bills carefully and understand what's in them and raise any concerns or objections as it's going by. And so now it's become pretty routine that almost every conference committee report has the rules suspended at the last minute. Now, last session was interesting because we finished so early, we were way ahead of a lot of those deadlines. And so from the outside looking in, it's like, why are they like breaking all the rules? Why are they changing all this last minute? But that's kind of baked into the process. And it's been that way, for decades, if not like a century. So that's what makes it harder for the public, because the lobbyists are there and they're constantly monitoring things and they're talking to those conference committees and they're lobbying to get their stuff in. And if you don't have the time as a member of the public to kind of be in the room or be talking to those conferees and saying, hey, what's going to happen? Are you going to sign this thing? Or you think you're going to get taken off by the speaker? What's going to happen here? You have to put a lot of really intense time in on it. And you have to be watching everything, because another thing that can happen is something might get taken out of the bill along the way. And you say, wow, that's great. They took that horrible thing out. And then it pops back to life again in a conference committee in some other place, because the people who want those provisions are constantly looking for a place to put them. And so it's like one of those like shell games where you got the guy like, what shell is the pea under? You have to constantly keep looking at the shells as they're moving around and make sure you can find where they've hidden the P. And that's one of the things the rules committee is supposed to do, is like understand where stuff got shoved. And if you don't like it, sound the alarm.
Well, I appreciate you're very knowledgeable on the whole aspects. I mean, like I said, I've been watching you for the past 2 years, and I appreciate your efforts and trying to get balance back in. My big things is remove money from politics, right? Individuals, you have to live there to give to your candidate, and there should be a limit. And also the whole lobbying thing. It's ridiculous. We have lives, we have jobs. We are what keep our economy going, right? We cannot go up there and spend every day fighting for what should be our right. It's our right anyway. Yeah, so if we could just figure out the money getting out of there and the lobbying, maybe they should only have certain times that they can talk to the legislators, and then once they're in session, then the legislators actually legislate, read the bills, go through, you know what I mean? But I'm sure you're busy with people knocking on your door wanting to talk to you about what they want and what they might offer people, so, but we appreciate you, Matt Pierce.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll answer any other questions you have, but I think we probably need to move along to the next speakers, or we're going to be here a very long time. So
We could be here for
turn it
weeks.
back.
I see one last question from Jess.
Yeah, I'm just curious how it is in Indiana. One of the things we really struggle with it in Iowa, the parties don't work together. They don't like each other, and on anything really big and important, there's really no bipartisanship. However, in order to get our bill through the Senate, we need Democrats and Republicans, both of them. Do you guys, how does that work there? Are the parties willing to work together? Yeah, I guess just could you encounter that same struggle of ours?
Yeah, I would say there's a core, maybe 10-20% of the bills that are kind of those hot button issues that each party feels very strongly about. And that's kind of what you read in the paper a lot. And then just some fundamental philosophical differences. And that's like, you just cannot get, a meeting of the minds or any compromise on that. But most of the other legislation, there's so much legislation. I call it like housekeeping legislation, or kind of routine stuff like, oh, we got the township fence rule, we need to update that. Or we need to do something with floodplains or whatever. And people may have different opinions about it, but it's not like super partisan. And in those areas, you can kind of work together. But it is easy for it to get polarized. And when you have these, which it sounds like is the case in Iowa as well, when you have super majorities where you have someone with 2/3 or more of the members, they have such absolute power that they don't really need to deal with the other side. When the numbers are a little closer, if it's like 60-40, 55-45, if you have that kind of split among the parties, now you kind of need to deal with everybody, because you're probably always going to have 5 or 6 members of one party or the other who's a curmudgeon and is like, I'm not going along with this, which means you got to find your votes from the other side of the aisle. And it forces you to have to come up with a bill that's more in the middle. Right now, if you got the leadership on your side, you can kind of jam through something that only your party wants, because you just have all the power at the moment.
Thank you. Sounds very similar to us then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all of your insight and advice. We really appreciate it, Representative. But like you're saying, yeah, I know we do have a couple other candidates in the room. So I don't know if, Susan, do you want to do the introductions? Because I'm not totally sure who is all there.
Sure, I'm gonna ask Mr. Sanders, do you want to come up?
Sure.
He is running for Senate. He's not in our district, but
I'm in the district here.
oh, no, when I say district, I meant Vigo County, where I'm from, which is just right down the road here. But anyway, he's been fighting the LEAP program, or the LEAP project, I should say. And so, yeah, I'll just give you the floor, and you can stand and look at these people and yeah.
Thank you very much, Vic. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I am David Sanders. I'm the Democratic candidate for State Senate in District 23. District 23 goes from where I live, West Lafayette, to the Illinois border, includes all of Fountain and Park and Vermilion and Warren counties, a little tiny slip of Montgomery County and the western half of Tippecanoe County. So to just tell you a little bit about myself quickly, I've been living in West Lafayette for 30 years. I'm an associate professor of biological sciences at Purdue University. This last semester, I taught medical microbiology. I have 2 US patents in my name. I'm married, I have 3 sons, 2 grandchildren. And I'm also West Lafayette City Councilor. I've been elected 3 times to that office. Just tell you one fun thing. I work on how viruses get into cells, both how we can prevent viruses, use them for gene transfer and gene therapy. I worked on the Ebola virus even before 9/11. So as we've had these outbreaks, I frequently get into the news a lot, have a lot of opinions about how we should be confronting Ebola. And because of my expertise on the Ebola virus, does everybody have your seatbelt on? You gotta be ready for this. The United States Defense Threat Reduction Agency Biological Weapons Proliferation Prevention Program. So we're trying to prevent the spread of biological weapons from former states of the Soviet Union. I've been to a formerly secret bioweapons lab in the middle of Siberia called Vector. Sounds like something out of James Bond. And it's one of the 2 places on the planet that still has smallpox virus. And I've actually got to see the suite. We were trying to prevent not only the spread of the viruses themselves, but the expertise that's necessary to turn those viruses into biological weapons. I'll just share this very quickly. I was just reading about our presidents because we just had the 250th anniversary of Declaration of Independence. Only one president has had a patent. Who do you think that was? It's not Jefferson, as it happens. That's a great guess. I can tell you a story about Jefferson, but it's Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. And only one president had a PhD, and that was Woodrow Wilson. Fortunate to have both. I'm not running for president, I'm just running for state senator, but at least I have those qualifications. Okay. So why am I here today? I'm here today because in 2023, I learned that the IEDC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, was planning to build a pipeline from aquifers that are associated with the Wabash River, Hayes Aquifer to be precise, and they were going to take up to 100 million gallons of water a day. Not return it, they're taking it from one watershed to another, 100 million gallons of water a day through a $2 billion pipeline from these aquifers to the Leaf Lebanon project. And when I first heard about this, I said, this is terrible for all sorts of reasons, ecological, economic, property rights. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. So I asked around and I said, what can we do about it? And this is actually related to something that we were just hearing about. And I was told it's all up to the state legislature. There is nothing you can do. It's a done deal and it's up to the state legislature. And for a couple of months, I thought about that and said, okay, maybe they're right. And then I decided, no, they're not right. I'm going to do something about this. So if you really want to know the story, you should ask me in the questions about Jack Nicholson and the movie Chinatown, because that plays a very important part in the story. But I'm not going to focus on that right now. I started speaking out about it at city council meetings. And as I did so, I started getting 5, 6 emails, phone calls, messages every single day. So I thought, it's not just me who's upset about this. The whole community is upset about this. So I said, I'm going to do something. So I created a resolution for the city council, and I found a co-sponsor for it, and created this resolution saying that we were opposed to this project. Passed unanimously. It then became the template for, I think, 18 other jurisdictions around the state. Now, I don't know what your affiliations are. We've got West Lafayette and Bloomington thing. Bloomington also supported us on this particular legislation. And it didn't matter whether it was a Democratic county or a Republican city, they all voted in favor of this. Okay, so that was something that was not mentioned here as one of the possible approaches, which is to get your local legislators, not just the ones in the state legislature, but your local legislators to get on board and to recruit allies. So talking about allies, this movement united people from right, left, and center like nothing in the history of Tippecanoe County since 70s or 80s when they wanted to tear down the Tippecanoe County Courthouse. You know, some counties did that. They replaced their beautiful county courthouses with these relatively ugly modern buildings. This united people. They didn't want it and they got it stopped. The same thing is true with this. It united everyone. And we also found other allies. There was a group called We the People, which tends to be on the right hand of the spectrum. They were involved. There was a Boone County group that was focused on the Lebanon aspect of this. We allied with them. And then there was a Facebook page called, I think, Stop the Leak Pipeline. Okay? All worked together, all made this happen. Now, once we got the resolution passed, more phone calls, more texts, more emails. And I will say, I'll just mention this, we have the advantage in Lafayette, West Lafayette, of having a press, a local press. And we made sure that the media knew about everything we were doing, and we got coverage because of that. And that coverage wound up bringing us to the attention of Indianapolis as well. So we got a lot of statewide coverage for this. So I decided it's all good to be speaking out. It's all good to have the resolutions. What we needed was an organization. And so I sent out emails, put it out there, social media. We're gonna have a meeting. It was a packed library, West Lafayette Library. And I came with a list of, I have the following 10 tasks that need to be accomplished for this to be an successful organization. Who's gonna do them? And people started raising their hands. I was astounded. Really, I this was beyond my best expectations. And I also came up with a name for the organization, which is called Stop the Water Steal. Had a certain amount of residents, and people love that name. I don't know if you saw, I mean, we had signs all over the state of Stop the Water Steal. And that was our organization. I was the founder of it. And we made that happen. We also got, because of the resolutions, every time there was a resolution, more media. Okay? And we also just, we got a lot of focus because this was an issue not just about water, but it was also about the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Okay, I'm just going to ask, how many of you have heard of the IEDC? Okay, I'm going to do something dangerous here. How many of you have a positive impression of the IEDC? Right. It wasn't that dangerous, I guess. So, okay. The IEDC was originally set up, time of Governor Daniels, to sort of replace the Commerce Department. And they were originally just trying to recruit businesses to Indiana. Sounds like, a fine project. However, they became a real estate company, mission creep, and I don't know, most people don't know this, a tax collecting organization. They create things called innovation development districts where they get to keep, it's a little technical, I'll explain, I'll just say it and then we explain it, up to 88% of the incremental tax revenue created by that district. What does that mean? That means they get to keep 88%, up to 88%. They can negotiate less if they want to. 88% of the property taxes, sales taxes, and income taxes generated by these developments that the IEDC controls. It's all due, it's Senate Bill 321 dash, is it 361? I think it's 361 dash 2022. Nobody read the bill, and they all say, oh, this sounds like a great idea to recruit things. But what does it do? What it does is makes the IEDC completely unaccountable. It's largely unaccountable now, but if they now have their own pot of money, they can do whatever they want with it. They don't have to go to the budget committee, which hasn't been that much of a restriction on them, unfortunately. But at least there's discussion there, and there are people who object to what they're doing. But this gives them a separate pot of money that they can do whatever they want with. Let's talk a little bit more about the IDC. IDC would not come to any of the meetings to which they were invited about this project. They wouldn't even talk about this. They would not talk to the media, would not talk to anybody about this. They thought it's a done deal. We don't care. They were arrogant. And they said, but these other groups existed and they helped. But I'm going to just say, I think this is fair enough to say, it was Stop the Water Steal that pushed it over the edge. That was the one that had the media presence and the consistent approach to this particular issue. And you're probably aware, we won.
Yeah.
Okay, we actually got the pipeline stopped.
Yay.
Okay, and because we were pressuring the IEDC, are you familiar? How many of you have heard of the Three Kings investigation of the IEDC by the Indianapolis Star? Okay, you should all read. You must read this article. It's a series of articles, but there's one major article on the IEDC, the Three Kings. Okay, it is stunning. It is stunning in the arrogance, the corruption, the self-dealing that the IEDC is engaged in. Okay? When I was running this organization, Stop the Water Steal, people said we should focus on abolishing the IEDC. And I said, you know what? I agree with you, but we've got to focus on the water first. Because this is an imminent threat, and we need to focus on it. But once we got that, and especially with this this Three Kings article and the audit done by Governor Braun. Governor Braun was under a lot of pressure. I don't know if you remember this, but during the gubernatorial debates, there were two issues that came up at every single debate: property taxes and Stop the Water Steal. Every single one. So he started making commitments about the IEDC, about the water. They had an audit. I don't know how many of you paid attention to the audit. I'm just going to summarize right now.
Yeah.
They did terrible things. None of it was illegal, so it's okay.
Yeah.
That was the conclusion. So, other people have spoken a little while. I'm going to keep short. I am a college professor. I can talk for 50 minutes without any interruption. I have to do that for a class, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to wrap up with this. What did you say, Ron?
Then not today, you ain't.
Okay.
I'm teasing you.
I deserve my own time, but okay. I'm gonna cut to the chase here. Other organizations that are now facing data centers or are facing large transfers of water, for example, Eagle Creek, they now are coming to us, to me in particular. How are you so successful? Right? They're sometimes a little bit jealous about the fact. I mean, Eagle Creek in particular, right? Because they can't get the water from us, now they have to get it from Eagle Creek. But I'm working with them. You know, I'm happy to provide my advice and so on. So first thing that I wanted to say, in addition to the wonderful things that we heard, is start with your local legislators. Start with the people at the city level, people at the county level, push there, okay? You,
pushed them to the point of no return.
okay.
Now we're pushing them out.
Second though, is you may be able to get, even if you can't get yours to do it, there are other communities that are facing similar issues. Talk to those legislators, talk to people in there to get their legislators to get on board. That's how you create the pressure. I've done lobbying at the State House. You know, they think it's just in the State House, right? It's just that room there. They'll be polite, they'll listen, whatever. When it starts to be a grassroots movement, which goes across jurisdictions, and it's getting media attention, then they start paying attention to you. Okay, so that was very successful for us. You do need to be extremely organized. You need to have, precise tasks delegated out to different people. Final thing is, now I'm gonna have to apologize. I got this invitation a couple different ways. What is the name of the group of the people who are in this room right now?
Citizens Against Wabash Valley Resources.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure.
And now if you include everybody on the Zoom
Yeah.
and all of that, that is called the Indiana Action Team.
Indiana Action Team. Okay, but I'm gonna go back to the first one. I'm running for state senate. I do not accept corporate PAC money. All the time, people say, well, how do I know you're not gonna be corrupted and you're gonna change? I've been in city council for 10 years. I have not changed. People know it from day one when I came in, I stood for certain things. I stand for those exact same things now. So I'm not gonna change. I just, as an aside, I actually don't keep my salary from city council. I donate every single penny of it to nonprofits or to
Wow.
charities. And I can honestly tell you, I have never benefited from my city, in my business or whatever, my property, from being a city councilor, and I have no plans to, trade on my government experience when I leave public office.
You ever thought about moving to Terre Haute?
That's I teach at Purdue, so it's a bit of a long commute. I actually like living in West Lafayette. In any case, but that's not going to happen. I do have to just say one thing here, and that is Wabash Valley Resources. The person I'm likely to run against, they're still separated by 3 votes. I don't know if you know this. In District 23, it's Spencer Deary is ahead by 3 votes against Paula Copenhaver. If you read this, you can, on the other side, I've written about the race and stuff like that. I hope you all take a look at that. Did Spencer come and speak here?
Yes.
In the primary? You know how I know that? It was one of the only photos he posted on his Facebook page from the primary. He posted a photo of, I believe there were people in red shirts. Red shirts and him. Okay, I lay things out straight. Wabash Valley Resources. Do you know who was a prominent contributor to Spencer Deary's first campaign?
Yes.
Do you know who's a prominent contributor to this current campaign? Wabash Valley Resources. Okay. No, they're not going to contribute to me. I mean, if they see this video, you normally post these things. I've seen one of your meetings in the past. They are not going to contribute, and they will do everything they can to make sure that I do not become the next state senator for District 3. I don't care. That's not my business. Is to try to help communities to organize, to defend themselves against outside interests who are trying to impose things on their communities. As city councilor, I am the strongest opponent of state preemption. You know what state preemption is? State preemption is when a county, a city passes a law and some lobbyist doesn't like it, and he goes to his state, to not his, not necessarily from the state, to go to a state legislator and whispers in his ear, we want you to eliminate that law. That's what's called state preemption. I am one of the strongest people in the state. Certainly on our city council, certainly in our county, Tippecanoe County. Okay, just finish up with this. I know the disadvantages that you have. Tippecanoe is one of the largest counties in the state. We have, media. It's less than it used to be, but we have media there who take an interest in this and report and so on and so forth. You have Terre Haute, and I have seen some of the, some work that goes there in Terre Haute. But I mean, Vermilion is not a big county. Tippecanoe is a large, so that's an advantage. I'm telling you, don't let that stop you. Don't let that stop you. Continue to reach out to other people in other areas. And the final message is, it's all the same issue. Data centers, large water transfers, carbon sequestration, it's the same issue. It has to do with corporate welfare. It has to do with corporations being brought in by the current state government and imposing things on people's communities. And I've called publicly, you may have seen it, for the abolition of the IEDC. It is so corrupt that it is beyond repair now. It is beyond repair. And so that's all I have to say. I want to thank you for your time. I'm willing to take any questions that you have.
You guys want any questions?
How long did I go anyway? I didn't go that long, right?
Are you willing to stay after because we
Yes.
have some
Yes, it turns out, so
Oh.
I work extremely hard. Everything I do, including running for office. Today, I'm planning to go to the Park County Fair, and then after that to the Fountain County Fair, because their battles of the barns are slightly offset. And so I was hoping to make it there before too long, but yes,
I got a question.
by all means.
The officer, John officer for the degree hat.
Yes, the Hayes.
Why would this country, the state of Indiana, even let it come down to local people to say, yes or no, we can furnish you all that water that you stop?
I'm sorry,
You get what I'm saying?
not exactly. Go ahead.
How could someone in our government say, yeah, we can furnish you that much water a day?
Yes,
All right. Where did that come from?
that's a great question. So in Indiana, we have no real statewide rules on water usage. We have no real plan. What we do have one element, and that is where the water is deposited is under control. But where the water comes from, they can just take it. We do not really have a statewide water plan. Now, other states have that, and in many cases, sorry.
Don't you think we're behind the times on that?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. If, again, I could talk forever. If we were talking about that, that is certainly one of parts of my program is to have a statewide water plan that gives local communities the right to control their own water
Did
resources.
you know that we were turned down by IDEM? They couldn't, they told us that they would not help us.
I've read that. I
They were
don't.
told to stay away from this group.
And yes, I understand that, and that's what I'm trying to help you fight against. That's what that's what I thought. So, but my point is we need change. So I feel as if I've done a lot as city councilor and as organizer of that movement. But if I get to be a state legislator, I can accomplish even more to try to defend that. And, again, local control, lack of state preemption, really understanding resources. I don't argue that every single person in the state legislature should be a scientist. I think one would be a good idea. And these are the issues. Now, I don't claim to know everything about everything. And when we did the Stop the Water Steal, we had hydrogeologists from Purdue who were working with us. What I do provide is, it's true I don't know everything about everything, but I can understand. I can understand the language that they speak. When they say something, I can really understand it and evaluate it. So that's something else that I bring to the office. So thank you for that question. Yes, please.
This is sort of not related to carbon sequestration.
Yes.
If you were elected, would you have any problem trying to influence straight ticket voting in our state? I think we're only one of 6 that still have it.
I am absolutely opposed to straight ticket voting. I believe that for a robust democracy, voters should be confronted with the names of the people that they're voting for at least every 2 or 4 years, whatever the term is. Because, if you just do straight vote, you don't even get to see those names.
Yeah.
Right? And it turns out you will sometimes say, oh my goodness, this is the person of my party. I don't actually like that person. Or they'll get to see the other one. Oh, I know that guy. That's, I don't know, his son plays basketball with my son or whatever it is. I happen to know him. He seems like a smart guy and so on. We don't have to do that. I think that is, a form of laziness. I think it's detrimental to democracy. Absolutely. Again, if I may, I've been talking about that for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since we're 50th in voting, I feel like, I'm very happy with, I've actually heard you speak before in Purdue about LEAP. So
I say.
that was you and a lot of people up there do great work. But I think if Indiana wants to, maybe we could go crazy and get up to 40th or something. We really got to get these archaic voting laws out of here.
I think that's a major thing. And I think another thing, which is more difficult because it would cost more money, but we have the earliest polls closing time in the country. And a lot of working people, trying to get by 6 o'clock, that's a hard thing to do. And I think it discourages voting. Now, again, you have to have more volunteers and you have to pay people in order to man the polls for longer. But I think that's a cost that is worth bearing for democracy. Thank you, please.
I don't want to change the subject, but with the carbon,
Yes.
what I'm worried about is them polluting our water
Yes.
table with that, okay?
Absolutely.
They, the company, Wabash Waters, told us, well, whenever we get ready to do it, start up,
Yes.
then we'll present you with the safety features and things. Well, they don't have any, and they're trying to push it off on the counties to respond and stuff.
Yes.
Well, to start with, it's so volatile, they can't control it,
Yes.
and the counties can't control it.
Yes.
I mean, it will kill everything and pollute before, and the state said, that's okay, we'll take care of it. Do you understand what
I understand exactly what you're saying. And this was the problem that we faced with the pipeline. We sort of knew where it was coming from, but they would not tell us where the water was going to go. And why is that? Because the laws in Indiana say you can take water from anywhere, but once you tell people where you're going to discharge it, then all of a sudden there were some regulations around that. But they want to keep it as secret as possible until it's too late.
Well, plus it's, if it kills everybody, the state's gonna take care of it. I know our taxes will go up, they'll have to pay off all the.
We don't buy you to pay them.
Yes. I mean, taxes, costs are all, are relevant. I mean, talk about data centers, right? Data centers come in, they automatically increase local electrical rates. I mean, that's everywhere it's at least 20%. They take water. We know these things are happening, and yet we aren't organizing up, but we have to see the larger picture. It's
Also, the water they take in,
yes.
what they get rid of isn't water. They take the hydrogens out of it.
Right. So
They're
that
gonna start supplying solar panel battery systems with the hydrogens. So it won't be water, all that water going to cool the batteries or whatever they use on.
yeah.
That won't be water when it comes out either. So now does this
You know,
use-
I'm not sure that I have to. That's true in part.
That's a newer.
That's true. That's new. Yeah. That's true in part. I don't know that that's true for the majority of the water. That's
Okay, well, I don't have the education. I'm
I was
giving you
gonna
the
say-
best I know.
After, I was gonna say, if you stay after, he's got some
Okay.
definite pointed questions. that
okay.
he
All
would-
right. All
And
right.
you might be
There
able
was
to
one.
answer
There was
them.
one young man in the back.
Yeah, Bill.
You say the pipeline is stopped, right?
This is the pipeline from the Taze Aquifer in Tippecanoe to Leap Lebanon.
It's coming from
Yeah,
Eagle
we're all
Creek.
hard.
Yes.
We worked our whole life hard. We didn't know all this crooked stuff was going on till we were retired. And up here at Lafayette, that's probably the most crooked place in Indiana. You got Hoken and Daniels and Ford. They got that so screwed up there.
So if you want to know who is the person in Tippecanoe County who speaks out the most and is trying to control it, I'm sorry to say you're looking at him right now.
You'll be
I'm well known as the person who's going to call out, and I can't tell you. There's some things happening right now which are going to be extremely interesting in the next couple of months.
Well, see, they had that shut down, the leak. Last year, so it was shut down. It's never been shut down.
Well, again, it's just the pipeline is shut down. The LEAP project is continuing to go forward. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said about it.
Yeah.
but-
Does anybody else have?
I'm sorry?
Are they still trying to bring 12 China companies in and South Korea in?
They're bringing a company. The company from South Korea is coming to West Lafayette. I opposed that. They are bringing companies in, but it's all secret projects. This is the problem with the IEDC. It's not transparent, not accountable. I think it says on the back of it about transparency and accountability. That's what we're talking about. This is what I can bring to state government.
I was gonna say, if we got direct questions for him, after this, I know they've been on here quite a while in the Zoom meeting, but I did want Brandy.
By all means.
Can you just introduce yourself? I mean, she was just recognized. She's gonna be running for its District 42.
Yep.
And I just wanted everybody to get to know just your name and.
Hi, I'm Brandy Vandiver. I am running for the House District spot, House District 42. It includes a little bit of Fountain, Olive Vermilion, Olive Park, and a little bit of Vigo and a little bit of Clay. If the district is a little bit different than when I ran in 2020, I ran in that primary but lost the primary. So it's a little bit different, a little bit more condensed, but still very rural, very big area to cover. My profession is I'm a neonatal nurse practitioner, so I take care of sick babies for a living. I'm very well versed in healthcare. My husband's a public school teacher. And both my grandparents were public school teachers. Both were presidents of the union. Very well versed in all of that as well. I feel very strongly about supporting our families, living wages, pay transparency. Transparency across all spectrums is super important. I think I'm actually in your Senate district, so I will be very happy to cast my vote for you. I think that's fantastic. He says a lot of things. Really what I wanted to touch on real quick was, I think the overall what we heard was who we vote for matters and paying attention matters. And we can't all know everything about everything. And so that's why these groups are so important. And I think that's why picking people that you can have conversations with, or that's who you want to be putting in the state house, because I will also be the first to tell you, I can't know everything about everything, but you want to know the people that you can go to and that you can trust, and that is going to be a good source of information, because that's what's going to create good relationship, and that's what's going to create good policy, because you know that the decisions you're making are affecting everyday people. And I think that's why that's very, very important. So
We just wanted to let you get to know her and who she was. And actually, we, a couple in our group, are going to be meeting with her to kind of see, does she know what's going on? You know, what does she know? What does she need to know? And if she is elected, then would we be, you know, helpful to her to put forth some bills and legislation? And so, yeah, we're looking forward to it. You know, I think her general knowledge of it, she's like, this is a bad thing. So, but we want to tell her all the risk and what our concerns are and just everything. So
thank you.
thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Give it back to him, Deb.
All right. I know we are like way over time, so I apologize, but I appreciate for everybody sticking around because I think we did learn a lot today, and hopefully we can continue doing this sort of thing because I think, like Jess pointed out, it is so important to get to know your legislators, your potential legislators, and start building those relationships. So I think this was great. And we will be back here next month on the second Tuesday of the month. I don't know what date that is off the top of my head. Don't ask me. But you should get an email about it. We'll post about it in the Facebook group. But in the meantime, please continue reaching out to candidates so we can get them on the record, know where they stand. And don't forget that if you're able and willing, you know, we have officially started fundraising to help support the litigation that's going to be coming. So that is all happening. Otherwise, I don't know what else to say. We good to go?
Emma, next meeting should be August 9th.
I knew I could count on you. All right, August 9th. Be here or be square. Perfect. All right, thank you all. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you next month, if not sooner.